Okay, we are eliminating one of the answers, and we believe that we should eliminate this one. Do I have consensus for the rest of the class?
Yes.
Okay. So what do we think is the correct answer?
I'm more leaning towards C.
Yeah, C for Canada.
Why do y'all like C?
It happens a lot of times. They being pulled out to do something else, and us getting on an empty room.
I think as part of the planning phase, there would be some sort of an initial agreement around the percentage of effort or the availability of the stakeholders. That is already discussed, but it is quite possible throughout the life cycle of a project, there could be other things running in parallel which may take priority. So I'm mostly around that point C, a common.
Okay. I want to say that your logic is sound in real life, but there is not anything in the Babok that talks about the percentage of time that they're going to be contributing to the work. I just want to make that clear so no one gets that confused. The
Okay.
what are the symptoms that we would be watching for to see would stakeholders be diverting to other project work? Do you remember what the Babok says? What are the signs and symptoms that we're looking for? Specifically, it says they may not be able to attend your meetings. They may not be responding to your emails. While this is a risk across all business analysis tasks and knowledge areas, it's specifically called out in the managed stakeholder collaboration task as it could directly impact the objectives of the elicitation and collaboration knowledge area. Very good. One good down. Let's go. You're the business analyst on an initiative and you're preparing for elicitation of a new business opportunity. What is the prerequisite for conducting a elicitation? So let me point out all of this is information, but it's noise as far as what the question is. This is the question. What is the prerequisite for conducting elicitation? So what task are we in?
Prepare for elicitation.
Prepare for elicitation, right?
Okay. Um, that would be okay, let me back up. Conducting elicitation is what the question is asking, right? And
Okay.
the prerequisite of that is going to be the inputs into the conduct elicitation task. The input to conduct elicitation task is, can you remember?
Uh, elicitation activity plan.
It is. That's correct. So knowing it's the elicitation activity plan makes answering these questions a lot easier. You need authority granted to you from the sponsor to utilize resources for the illicit requirements process. You need to receive permission from functional management to interview and elicit requirements for the stakeholders. You need to determine which elicitation techniques are needed for the requirements gathering, or you need to ensure that all needed resources are organized and scheduled for the conducting the elicitation activities. I'm going to give it a 10 count and we'll come back and eliminate one. Okay, which one should we eliminate?
I
Uh,
think the
okay.
first one can be eliminated. I have not come across a scenario of explicit authority being granted by the sponsor to
Okay,
utilize.
this
At least,
one?
yeah, I at least haven't encountered any such scenario where.
Okay. So what do we think is the correct answer?
See, conducting a recitation, which recitation techniques and yeah, I think it's C.
Jose, what do you think?
I would like to ask why
C
not
for
D?
Canada.
Or
C
D.
for Canada. D for Denmark.
Yeah, kind of conflicting between C and D as well.
Amal, what do you think?
Actually, I was wondering to ask if you're choosing C, why you don't choose D?
D, perhaps because if some of the resources are not around for elicitation, there could be other techniques, not necessarily a workshop. It could just be a one-on-one discussion where we are still capturing requirements or having these discussions as a one-off rather than an organized, scheduled meeting each time. Ah,
Okay, so I've got, how many votes do I have for D?
I vote for D. I would say that elicitation techniques are one of the resources needed.
uh, I'm also going 50-50 there. Yeah. C or D.
Okay. Imal, what do you vote for?
Am I pronouncing your name correct, Chetana? Chetana?
Yeah, that's right, Iman.
Okay, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name.
No, that's just right.
So what Joe said, of course, I don't know the correct answer, but what Joe said, it sounds very good to me. He's saying that C is a subcontinent of, it is part of the D. So we already have C in the D. That's what I understood, what Joe said.
Uh-huh.
So let's test D.
Mm-hmm.
The prerequisite for elicitation process includes gathering all resources needed and scheduling the resources for conducting the selected elicitation activities. Let's look at this document. Prepare for elicitation. The output of it is the elicitation activity plan. It's used for each activity. It includes logistics, scope of elicitation, and selected techniques. So all those things are in that. And that is the input into the conduct elicitation task. You understand why D is correct now?
Yeah, supported materials. Okay.
You got your action plan, your plan of attack. You know where you're going to attack and who you're going to attack. Not attack. Maybe that's a bad word. But you know your path forward because of that. When preparing for the requirements elicitation, what are the inputs required to develop an elicitation activity plan? Is it business analysis approach and needs stakeholder engagement approach, business analysis approach domain SME list, or business analysis approach stakeholder engagement approach? We know which task we're in, right? We're preparing for requirements elicitation. So this is going to be prepare for elicitation task. Let's give it a 10 count and come back and eliminate one.
Whoa, what is it?
Here's your keyword. Okay, knowing what task we're in and knowing that it's asking for the inputs, there's a finite number of inputs. Let's talk about, do we like this one?
Yes, it's going to be A or B.
I'm going with B.
You
Yeah.
like B?
Uh,
Why do you like B, Chatney?
uh, Stakeholder engagement approach. I mean, this is something I recollect from having run through it earlier.
Okay, let's test it. These are the two inputs into that task. So even though other things might be useful, according to the BABOK, these are the two things you need to be able to begin that task.
So what I'm understanding, we cannot elicitate the requirements if you don't know the needs. So in fact, while you're eliciting the requirements, we are doing nothing but breaking down those needs to further details.
And how we elicit the requirements is outlined in our stakeholder engagement approach.
Got it.
Yes, the business analysis approach is from the earlier stage, the plan, plan.
That's going to be your planned business analysis approach
Yes,
output.
yes, yes.
Okay, let's move forward. What is the impact of the Agile perspective on the planning and execution of elicitation and collaboration tasks? So it's all of the tasks. Pardon me. The impact of the Agile perspective. So think about what Agile means in the BABOK. Is it minimal to none? Elicitation and collaboration tasks are planned and executed similarly in an Agile environment. High-level requirements are elicited at the beginning of the project. Requirements are detailed right to the appropriate level right before their development begins. While requirements are all elicited at the beginning of the project, they are not formally approved during a project. There is less emphasis on collaboration elicitation approaches. Let's give it a 10 count so y'all can ponder. Okay, which one do we want to eliminate?
A for Alabama.
Are you saying eliminating A?
Yes.
Okay, why?
Yeah, I agree as well.
There are impacts depending on the approach used.
Right. You do your elicitation collaboration tasks very differently in Agile than you do in Waterfall, right? So what do we think the correct answer is?
I mean, can we also look at ruling out another option, Thea? I mean, then I
Sure,
think
I'm happy to. What do you
I'm
want to
looking
rule
at
out?
I'm looking at D, less emphasis on collaborative elicitation approaches. Uh,
That doesn't really make sense, does it? Not for an
yeah,
Agile
agile,
perspective,
no, less emphasis, no, especially
right?
if it's. I think we can rule out D as well. Mm, is that okay?
I think ruling out A and D makes good sense. Let's talk about this one. What do you think about this one?
Role elicited. I mean, they're generally prioritized. Uh, Requirements are all elicited, and they undergo prioritization into sprint cycles. In terms of approval, formally approved during the project, that should also be done at an initial stage.
So are
I
we
would
thinking
say,
that B? Go ahead,
yeah,
Jose.
yeah, I would go for B for Bahamas as the correct answer.
Okay, let's test
Yeah,
it.
I'm also looking at B.
The
Okay.
Agile requirements are detailed just in time. So we do get the high level requirements, and then right before we go into development, we refine them down. And the reason we do that is because things change. And what we gathered a month ago is not necessarily the way it needs to be right now. So we want to be sure that we're not spending our time a month ago doing, finite requirements. And then we get here and we go, wait, we've got to do it all over again. So high level, then we do a refined level now.
Right. Anthea, can we look at see what is the reasoning that is provided for it being incorrect? Business approves requirements immediately before development begins, just in time. Okay.
It says they're not formally approved.
And also, Chetan, I think the word that I see as not a potential for C is all. All requirements are elicited at the beginning
Yeah, in agile, I suppose that's questionable.
because it
Yeah.
is literally not very practical, isn't
Waterfall.
it? To be
Right.
able to elicitate all at the beginning, even not during the waterfall, even.
I would tell you that Bob Churchill would argue with you a little bit on that one. his experience in working in steel refineries and natural gas refineries, he would say we would know to the millimeter where every single piece of equipment would be placed. We would know at what order they would have to go in. Um, so in his opinion, in his experience, he would say all the requirements were elicited at the beginning. We would know exactly what we were doing before we start the project, and then we would start the project. But for many of us, we don't have those kind of limitations. We don't have a 300-ton piece of equipment that it's like, oh, we'll just set it here and move it later. No, you put it in the right place the first time, right? We don't have that problem. We are more like, we think we're going to have 5 pages on this website, not 6. So, we can adjust. Let's move forward. Benita is a business analyst for her organization. Sam is a data analyst who asked to sit with Benita for a moment in the cafeteria and give information he believes is relevant to her project. Sam continues by describing seemingly complex data flows. Which of the following is the next logical step for Benita to take? So she is eliciting requirements here without having a plan, right? This was one of those unscheduled, I just happened to talk to this person who gave me requirements, right? So we are in requirements, but conducting a elicitation. She would ask Sam to send an email documenting and more thoroughly describing the information to ensure understanding. Refer Sam to the data architect so the information can be included in the designs. Ask Sam to access the requirements documentation in the project share folder and add the data requirements, or schedule a workshop with relevant stakeholders to construct a data flow diagram. I want to remind you, the way the BABOK says to do this may not be the way that you would normally do this. So you got to answer according to the BABOK. I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Okay, which one would we like to eliminate and why?
B for Bahamas.
B, I would think B as well.
Okay. So we wouldn't send him to a data architect and just say, yes, go include this in the designs. We haven't established it's applicable, right?
Mm.
So what else do we want to either eliminate, or which one do you think is the correct answer?
A for Alabama. Eliminate.
Eliminate this one, okay?
Yeah, I suppose Sam wouldn't like to sit and document all that information. I mean, rather than have the business analyst do that activity, he would not
Yeah, it's
want
like,
to
oh
own
yeah,
that.
Sam, do that job for me.
Mm. I'm thinking C.
You think so? Tell me why.
I mean, all the information that Sam wants to share can be dumped into something called as the project shared folder with the data requirements, which is, I believe, which Sam will own. That will then have to be discussed with further stakeholders in a workshop. But for now,
Okay,
since he has the information, perhaps he could just directly add it. So it can be used as reference material during a workshop.
that sounds like what could be done in the real world, but would we ever ask somebody to take our requirements document and add to it without talking to other stakeholders?
Requirements document. Okay. Hmm.
So it looks like we're down to D.
D. Yeah, in which case D it is.
Okay, let's test it. The BABOK offers guidance that the BA information derived from an unplanned or just-in-time activity might require deeper exploration through planned elicitation activity. Since the information conveyed was complex in nature and honestly probably over the BA's head. It's like, I don't know what he's talking about. It sounds important, I just don't know. Um,
Hmm.
it requires additional elicitation activities to thoroughly understand Sam's information. And the workshop with relevant stakeholders would be maybe the SMEs of that area. They would understand what Sam's talking about. They would understand we're talking about this table or this system or this API. And then they could say that is within scope of what we're talking about, or it's not within scope of of this project. So the relevant stakeholders would be the people that would help you understand, or at least get to the point of coming to a conclusion, is it even part of this project? Or is Sam just really excited about this thing or really alarmed about this thing and he wants to be sure that it's paid attention to? All right, let's move forward. How is mind mapping utilized in the prepare for elicitation task? So we know which task we're in. We're talking about mind mapping. Mind mapping has kind of a specific goal in this task. It's used by the BA to identify which sources of business analysis information to consult. Mind mapping is not a suggested tool for this task. Used to estimate the time and cost of business analysis tasks associated with planning elicitation events, or it's used by the BA to identify which sources of business analysis information to consult and which elicitation techniques might be most effective. I'm going to give you a 10 count to ponder which one we're going to eliminate first. Okay, let's start with this one. Is mind mapping a suggested tool for this task?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes.
This answer can be eliminated. Is there another one we can eliminate?
Used to estimate the time and cost.
Right. Mind mapping doesn't help us with that. It doesn't tell us how long something's going to take, how hard it's going to be. It's not a mind mapping element. So we can eliminate these two.
Mm-hmm.
What do we think is the correct answer?
I will go D for Denmark.
So which sources of information to consult and which elicitation techniques might be most effective? So this one up
Yes.
here is which one to consult only, and this one has which techniques might be most effective. Do you agree, Chetna?
I'm not quite sure on that one, Thea. No clue.
Okay. Amal, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes it is good to choose the one which has already the previous
Yeah.
one in it, but not always. I mean, what is mind mapping? If someone tell me, then maybe it can make it can help me to choose between A and D. What is mind mapping?
Can someone
Uh,
explain?
a general drawing of how the entire process works, kind of like
So it is not like brainstorming. Are you like using it to put
to
different
get an
ideas in different
to get
categories? Is it kind
yes
of clustering the ideas
ideas,
to different
different
clusters,
stakeholders,
different groups?
yeah, different ideas, different stakeholders.
Okay, so this is not process mapping. This is not identifying this happens, then this happens, then this happens. That's not mind mapping. Mind mapping is so we have this project that it's going to require shipping, receiving, and materials management. So who in shipping and receiving could we talk to? And so you kind of identify it out and which one of those should we invite to this project? And then you go to the next one. Who in provisioning should we talk to? And you identify those out.
Mostly identify stakeholders, key SMEs. I'm going with A, Thea.
Okay.
We still go with the mind mapping is like an overall drawing of the entire situation.
Okay. Well, let's test D.
Mhm.
These are effective uses of the mind mapping technique for this task. So as you say, I think
Mhm.
Bob should be the one we talk to. From there, you say which technique are we going to use with Bob? You know, is he here in town? Does he work in this building? Does he work on the other side of the world? That's going to tell us which techniques we can use.
All right.
So, another thing we've added in Mall that we do, and I don't know that every student does it, but I've had really good feedback on it, is if we have place that we identify that we're having a challenge, we don't understand it quite right, or we get it wrong, we grab a post-it note and we put it in the top of our babok in that area. And that way, whenever we go to study, we know exactly which pages to study instead of we've got the whole page, the whole chapter. We know which areas we're having challenges with.
I love the idea. The moment when I was trying to answer this, I was thinking how different it is than other techniques. And then if we can have that concept clear, then it will be easier to choose the correct answer.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Mind mapping is in one of the technique packets that I've put together for y'all. The technique packets all have 5 or 6 different techniques in them, and it kind of has a Cliff Notes version of what they are. You still have to read the Babok, but it also has questions about each one that are easy, and then it has a next set of questions that are harder. So it's going to take them through the technique as it relates to the actual scenarios and the tasks. You are the business analyst for your organization, and you've identified the stakeholders in your organization. As part of this identification, you've identified stakeholder engagement approach, business analysis information, and business analysis performance assessment. You've got all 3 of those. What other input is needed to prepare for the elicitation and collaboration tasks? So this is all of the tasks in the entire knowledge area, all of the elicitation and collaboration tasks. So we're talking about the inputs into all of those. Do you also need supporting documentation, needs, project charter, or executive sponsor approval? I'll give you 10 count. We'll come back and eliminate one. Okay, what do we want to eliminate?
Sponsor approval.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do we think
Project.
is the correct answer?
I think needs.
Needs.
Needs defines the problem or opportunity being faced by the business. This information is used to determine the information to be elicited when developing business requirements early in the project life cycle. Very good. You're eliciting requirements by analyzing historical data to identify trends. What task are you performing? So eliciting requirements by analyzing historical data to identify trends. Which task is this? Is it data mining, conduct elicitation, confirm elicitation results, or document analysis?
Analyzing historical data. Conduct elicitation.
You feel like this is the correct answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am thinking data mining, historical data.
Okay. I need a tiebreaker, Amal. What do you think?
Well, the question is, we are doing the analysis for what? To find the trends, the patterns.
To identify trends. Okay.
Okay. I go with A, of course.
Okay, let's test A.
Oh,
Okay, so you're utilizing the research type of elicitation. Here's the key. Which task are you performing? It wants a name of a task.
not the
You're not going
technique,
to,
not the.
Oh,
yeah,
it's the
not the
task and not the
technique, it's the
technique. Oh
task.
my, what a catch.
Okay.
Okay.
So learning to read the question very specifically, very almost literally is important, but I'm going to tell you that the Watermark does a great job of teaching you these strategies and the concepts. You're not going to have this kind of question on the CBAP. The CBAP is going to say in the scenario, what's the first thing you do, which we know is that's input. in this scenario, you're doing this thing. What will you come out with? We know that's an output. You're going to see stuff like that on the CBAP exam, but you're not going to see name the task or something like that. It's not going to go so mechanically into the BABOK. It's wanting you to understand how to do your job.
Yeah,
We
it might
learned though,
be
right?
helpful since it is very relevant. So what I had learned also from the previous classes and what just already you said. So once we are reading the question, try to understand what is the scenario and what is the problem. And then that problem or that scenario might have lots of possible dimensions. Which dimension this question is asking? For instance, I have overlooked on that question was asking what task. And instead of task, if it was like what technique, perhaps data mining was correct answer. So what it is asking, it could ask a lot of things. We just can change a single word. So if you pay attention, as Tia just mentioned, what is the scenario? What is the problem? And then what is the question about
Yeah,
which dimension of that problem? And
right.
what are the distractions? Hopefully they are not doing it, but it is an exam. They might do it. They might add even some distractions, which is totally unnecessary. Just eliminate it, ignore it.
Yeah. On the CBAP exam, you're going to have basically two types of questions. And this is very general. You're going to have these very, very long questions. It's like 4 paragraphs. We call those essay type questions. They provide the essay. We don't write it. It's still going to be a multiple choice answer, but you're going to have, say, 4 paragraphs of a scenario, and then you're going to have 5 different questions based upon that scenario. The scenario will give you the information you need, but the question is going to apply to different pieces of that scenario. The other type of question is basically a very short paragraph that says, here's what's going on. Here are the details you need, and then it will ask a question in the very end of it. And then you'll have your multiple choice answer options. Okay, so you need to learn to say, looking at this, what is the question asking? Preeti, a business analyst, has been working on a project to develop a footbridge across a major avenue in one of the busiest roadway junctions in Sydney, Australia. Preeti is in the initial phase of the project and planning how to collect requirements from identified stakeholders. Kelly, a project manager, is checking in with Preeti to see if everything is on track or if she's facing any challenges or roadblocks. At this stage of the project, how can Kelly best help Preeti move forward in her work? So, first, what task are we in? I want to call your attention to this. She's in the initial phase of the project and is planning how to collect requirements from stakeholders. So what task is that?
Prepare for elicitation.
Prepare for elicitation. Okay. So in the prepare for elicitation, the project manager has a very specific job to do. And that's what this is asking. How can the project manager best help the business analyst move forward? What's the project manager's job in prepare for elicitation? The project manager should allocate the funds needed to conduct the business analysis activities properly. The project manager should work with the sponsor to determine if all relevant stakeholders have been identified before elicitation begins. The project manager should ensure that appropriate stakeholders and other physical resources are available for the elicitation session. Or the project manager should identify the risks involved in the requirements elicitation activity and create a mitigation and contingency plan. Let me give you a 10 count and we'll come back and eliminate one.
I think A can be eliminated.
Okay, why?
That should be the sponsor who has the funds for the project. Project manager is more so responsible for delivering the project. So allocation of the funds, I suspect, will not be at
I
least in the
agree with
initial
you.
phase of elicitation, I don't see that will be something to
And this
consider
should have been done whenever the project was
prior.
first approved, right?
Yeah.
Not here whenever we're into the project.
Mm-hmm. And I think D can be eliminated as well because project manager should identify the risks involved in the elicitation activity and create a mitigation and contingency plan. No, that will be for the BA, more so to
Uh, no, the
highlight the
project
risk.
manager is involved in the risks.
Okay.
They are the ones that manage the risks. Oh, I'm sorry, risk involved in requirements
Identify.
elicitation activity. That is the BA, you're right. So we have B and C as options. Jose, what do you think?
I would go for C, Canada.
Tell me why you like C.
It's because I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
like
also going
beach.
with C.
I don't know how to answer this one. It's just because I don't like B.
That that's a valid logic. Okay, let's go with it. The project manager's job in this task is to ensure the appropriate people and resources are available to conduct a elicitation. It's their job to go and if I schedule them and they keep saying no, 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 it's like, hey, project manager, I need you to go explain to them why this is. Very often as a BA, I've had to do that job, which is not a bad thing, but the BABOK says it's the PM's job. In the company we call the BABOK company, the PM does this job. Which of the following lists contain the three common types of elicitation? So these are very specific in one of the tasks. Let's see that. Which task is that? Do you remember? Or maybe I don't remember which task this is. That may be actually from our previous chapter. Anyway, observation, interviews, focus groups. Collaborative document analysis observation, collaborative observation research, or collaborative research experiments. Let's just start with this. Is collaborative one of our common types of elicitation?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means we can
Yes.
eliminate that. These two have observation, and this one doesn't. Is observation one of our three types?
No. Experiments is.
Experiments is, not observation. So collaborative research and experiments. Do you agree, Chetna?
Research, collaborative, yes. I don't know about experiments, but yeah. Observation, I don't think so. Okay.
I happen to
Observation
know
is
the
not.
answer to this one because of the experiments. It's like prototyping and such.
So the definition of experiments when we're talking about elicitation is we do something to get information that we couldn't have gotten otherwise. We create a test or a prototype or something to be able to get to the point of getting information. Prototypes are a great example of experiments. Sometimes you can do um a pro I've lost the word. You do an experiment and you say, okay, for this group, we're going to roll out this thing, a bonus program or a way to get their input or something. We try it out with a group before we roll it out with the whole organization. So it's just a really small experiment that we get information we couldn't have gotten otherwise. Which of the following statements about elicitation and collaboration is not true? So elicitation and collaboration, we know we're at the knowledge area level. Three of these are true, one of these is not true. Elicitation and collaboration can be planned, unplanned, or both.
Mm-hmm.
Our ongoing activities and focus on all types of business analysis information may trigger additional elicitation, or elicitation and collaboration focus only on requirements elicitation. So we'll start at the top. Is this one true?
Yes.
Okay. If that one's true, how about this one?
Yeah, in an agile project, it's ongoing activity and focus upon.
Focus upon all types of business analysis.
What could be an example here when you say all types of information? I mean, we are looking at requirements, we are looking at, let's say, risks,
Bless you,
budget,
Mom.
resources.
So all kinds of BA information, things like that stakeholder wants us to send them emails only. They don't want to have meetings. We have a project timeline that gives us this information. I mean, all of those things are going to be BA information.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Okay,
sorry, I just lost my
B
screen,
looks
didn't I?
good as well.
Here we go. Okay, so we think B is true. Elicitation activities may trigger additional elicitation. Is that true?
True.
Have you ever talked to somebody and they went, "Oh, you need to talk to Mark." Oh,
Yeah, very
yeah.
easily a common scenario
Yeah.
that we've encountered. Yeah.
Okay, so what about elicitation and collaboration focus only on requirements elicitation?
I think that could be the answer.
I'm,
I say, what do
yeah,
you think?
I'm divided between B for Bahamas and D for Denmark.
Yeah, that's where I was wondering what would be the other type of BA information, but with the instances that Thea proposed, now I'm leaning towards D.
Well, let's test
Yeah,
it. I'm not infallible, guys. This statement is only partially true. Elicitation and collaboration focuses on elicitation of all business analysis information, not just the elicitation of requirements. So let's say we have a project that we are going to rewrite for this particular, say, database. While we're talking to the stakeholders, we're also going to be noting down they're having a pain point in this other area. This information that comes into the database is not always clean. We're not just talking about the database. We're talking about all the other pieces of information that we can obtain while we're in that elicitation. So it could be, the stakeholders are going to be on vacation during UAT, so we have to find a different stakeholder that can do UAT, or we need to move UAT up so we can get the stakeholders' participation. All of that is business analysis information, even outside of requirements for that project. Which task in the elicitation and collaboration knowledge area may use all of the following techniques? So we know which knowledge area we're in, and we're speaking about one specific task. Is it and the techniques are brainstorming, focus groups, interviews, and observation. Is the task confirm elicitation results, conduct elicitation, prepare for elicitation, or manage elicitation results? I'm not even going to ask y'all for a 10 count on this one. Which one can we eliminate?
observation.
Manage elicitation.
Manage elicitation results is not a task in this knowledge area, is it? So that can't be one of the options because it's asking for which task. So we've eliminated this one. So brainstorming, focus groups, interviews, and observation. Which task is it that may use all of those?
Focus on things, reviews.
If y'all are talking, I can't hear you any longer.
Brainstorming, focus groups, interviews, and observation.
Do you use those during prepare for elicitation?
Brainstorming is used.
That's true. Brainstorming
Right.
is used. If you're using a focus group, are you in prepare for elicitation?
No, no, no,
Or are
no.
you in
We are already
conducting elicitation?
we are conducting on a focus group. Yeah.
Okay. If you're using interviews, are you in
But
confirming elicitation?
no,
How about observation? Is that confirming elicitation?
no.
I bet you're
I think
correct.
conduct elicitation, yeah, sounds right.
Brainstorming, focus groups, interviews, and observation techniques are all listed in this task. So let's just look at the task real quick. When we talk about, let me expand these out so you can see all of it. So for prepare for elicitation, here's the extent of what they suggest would be correct tasks that you could consider. When we get to conduct elicitation, you got a whole lot more. And these are specifically things that you use when you're actually working with stakeholders, observing stakeholders, gathering information from data that you're pulling your elicitation, you're eliciting your actual requirements. The other tasks in this knowledge area don't have very many techniques. But whenever you're talking about conducting elicitation, it's a lot, and they're specifically for that purpose. Okay, let's move on. Mark is a business analyst for his company as he's working with stakeholders to elaborate on the requirements for a new software design customers have requested. Mark is working to draw out, explore, and identify information relevant to the change. What knowledge area is Mark utilizing in this solicitation process? So what knowledge area is he utilizing while he's doing this thing? We know that we're only taking a test today on only one knowledge area. I feel like this is kind of a gimme, so I'm going to go ahead and do this one. So elicitation and collaboration describes the tasks the business analysts perform to prepare for and conduct elicitation activities and confirm the results obtained. Anybody with questions or comments on that one?
Mm.
Okay, let's move on. What does elicitation elicitation activity plan include? So this is that document, that product that we create whenever we are working on that particular task called prepare for elicitation. It contains logistics. They all have that word in it. Scope of elicitation activities. Do we need scope of elicitation activity? Because I've got that in 2 and I don't have it in this one. Do we need this one?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I'm going to eliminate this one. Selected techniques. Do we need the selected techniques in this document?
For that one.
Say it again, Jose. I couldn't hear you.
No, I don't remember that one. Logistics and scope, yes. Selected techniques, I don't know.
Okay. This one down here does not have selected techniques. It does have experiments and research.
No, no, experiments and research is not part.
Okay, so we don't think it's that one or this one. Nope, it's that one or this one up here. So, supporting materials. Do we need supporting materials? Supporting materials in this case could be your org chart. It could be your business case.
Okay.
The things that you need to have to be able to work on the project.
Okay. By elimination, The correct is A for Alabama.
Okay, let's test it. These items comprise the scope of the elicitation activity plan. So let's talk about what's in it. Logistics, who is where are we going to have our meetings? Are we going to do it via Zoom? Are we going to do it Teams? Are we going to do it in person? Am I flying to Bermuda to meet with a stakeholder? That could be a yes. Then the scope of elicitation activity, who am I going to get what from? How long is it going to take? Things like that. Selected techniques. I'm going to use a survey to start with. Then I'm going to follow up with specific interviews if the survey comes back interesting. We're going to have a requirements workshop after we get 80% of the requirements to knock the conflicts out. And then supporting materials are things like the needs, the business case, the org chart, anything else that you might need as a business analyst to be able to, if that's all you had, if you only had your elicitation activity plan, what else would have to be in it is in your supporting materials. So these are the scope of the elicitation activity plan out of prepare for elicitation. Okay, what is the primary difference between formal and informal documentation as possible forms for business analysis information packages? So this is the thing we're talking about. And there's formal and informal. Those are the two types. The primary differences. Formal documentation is usually based on a template used by the organization and provides a stable, easy-to-use, long-term record of the information. Formal documentation is always presented in the form of a presentation. Formal documentation always includes texts, matrices, and/or diagrams. Formal documentation is always approved and signed off on by the sponsor. Which one can we eliminate, guys?
Eliminate B for Bahamas.
Why do you dislike B?
Yeah, in Agile, it could most likely be updated on the portal itself. Not necessary that it's. And I don't think there is an approval and sign off either by the sponsor, especially. I mean, it could be the stakeholders, the SMEs, the architects.
So remember, we're talking about the difference between formal and informal. So it says formal is always approved and signed off on by the sponsor.
Ah.
As long as you're answering the question, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I'm just drawing to your attention that this is what the question is actually asking. What's the primary difference?
Mhm.
So if it says something about formal, it means informal is going to be different than that. So what do we think is the correct answer?
A for Alabama.
Chetna?
I'm okay with A as well.
Okay. This is the correct description of formal documentation. In addition, informal documentation may include text, diagrams, or matrices, just like formal documentation, but they're not part of the formal organizational process. I encourage you to be clear on this as you move forward in your studies. And that's going to be in the first section I'm sorry, that's going to be in the first element in confirm elicitation results. So this is chapter 4, task 4, elements, and then the first element. Which techniques would work best to confirm your elicitation results? So our goal is to confirming the elicitation results. Which techniques would we choose? Would it be document analysis, interviews, reviews, requirements model, document analysis, interviews, reviews, workshops, document analysis, interviews, process modeling, workshops, or document analysis, interviews, reviews, process modeling. So they all have document analysis. They all have interviews. Is process modeling critical? Both of these have process modeling.
So we are eliciting. We are on the elicitation phase. We are not drawing many models at the time.
Okay. So what do you think the correct answer is?
Between A and B.
Okay, I've got votes for both A and B now.
What do they mean with
Chetna,
requirements model?
what's your B, Chetna?
Sorry, I was just going back to look at it, but not sure. So it's yeah,
Okay.
just a wild guess only.
All right.
I just don't understand what they mean with the requirements model.
Yeah, I'm also thinking process modeling and work process modeling.
Please correct me, Tia, if I'm wrong. Requirements model or modeling is you're using the same requirements and the information that you have, and you model it. You model it to different other farms. Of course, you model it to a suitable farm for your stakeholders. Let's say your stakeholder is a blind person, and the blind person is, of course, can't understand the text. So then you model it to maybe a sound version of those texts that can call that can be called requirements modeling, isn't it, Tia?
I'm not so sure about that, Amal.
Okay.
For this year, I think I'll also stick with B.
Let's test B and then we'll check A. These are the stated techniques for confirming elicitation results. So let's check A. A requirements model is an artifact versus a technique.
Okay.
That's why this one isn't right.
An artifact. Okay. Okay. Now it makes sense.
This is a thing that you do create, but Amal, I'll be honest, your explanation sounds right. I'm just not feeling 100% about it. Something maybe it might just be my knowledge this morning. But this is the correct answer. These
Good
are
to
the
know.
things that you do to be sure that what somebody told you, because people make mistakes whenever they give you the requirements. Oh, yes, that has to be 3.147. Well, what if it's 3.148 and they just didn't have the update in their head? So you do your document analysis, you ask other people, you review the situation, and you have workshops to get the people in the room so that they can all hear the same thing and have the opportunity to raise a flag if there's something that's not correct, there's a hole, or there's a conflict. When identifying stakeholders and selecting elicitation techniques for requirement solicitation, which of the following describes a relationship between the two? So we're selecting techniques and identifying stakeholders for requirement solicitation. Which task are we in?
Identify stakeholders, prepare for elicitation.
We're in prepare. That's correct. So which of the following best describes a relationship between the two? Only identify stakeholders who have availability to participate in elicitation and then select elicitation techniques suitable for those stakeholders. The relationship between the two depends on the project approach and context associated with the business need. There is no relationship. You may select the elicitation techniques you prefer before identifying your stakeholders. I love workshops. We're all going to do workshops. Identify stakeholders involved in the change and then select elicitation techniques suited for them. Folks, which one can we eliminate?
Eliminate C and A.
There is a relationship, right? So that's not true. And this one, we don't just identify stakeholders who have ability to participate because they may not be the ones that have the true information. The very busiest stakeholders are very often the ones that we need information from, and they're busy because they have the information. So we have options of B or D left. What do we think is the correct answer?
B for Bahamas. I don't like that part of D where it says select techniques suited to them. It will be like the cherry picking BA.
Okay. Do I have another vote? Anybody else? Let's test B.
Oh,
Okay, so this answer is what the BABOK would say. You identify stakeholders involved in the change, which is your stakeholder roles, responsibilities registry, and then you identify the elicitation techniques suited to them. These people, they hate meeting in groups. We won't do a workshop, things like that. The relationship between the two answers is not correct because the project approach and context does not impact the need for ensuring stakeholders are identified, no matter what the approach or context. And elicitation techniques are always selected to best meet their needs. Does that make sense?
makes sense, but identify stakeholders involved in change. Select elicitation techniques suited to them. I need to review this part.
Okay.
41414142.
Yes. So here's a scenario that might make it easier to understand. Let's say your stakeholders were all very introverted developers, and you knew they were all very introverted developers or introverts, no matter what their role is. I tend to find that many developers are introverted, but not all. And you're thinking about how am I going to get information from them? Some of them may not even want to meet. They would much prefer you to send them a survey and let them answer it on their own because they need time to think about it, they need time to ponder it, and they don't want to have a face-to-face conversation. You can't say, we're going to have a workshop and everybody's going to get together because that's not what those stakeholders need. So you have to identify your stakeholder and their needs, and then you choose which elicitation techniques you're going to use with each of the stakeholders and then stakeholders as a group overall. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Moving forward. Which stakeholders participate in the conduct elicitation tasks? So we know which task we're in. There's a finite number of stakeholders. Depending on activity, any stakeholder with relevant knowledge and experience. Stakeholders who were originally identified in the elicitation activity plan. Customers, end users, domain SMEs, and implementation SMEs. Only the sponsor. So if you go to the conduct elicitation task and look at the stakeholders that are included. According to the BABOK, is this the correct answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Knowledge.
Do I have consensus? Amal? Chetna?
Yeah, Thea.
Okay. I gotta click it, don't I, before I hit check answer. This is the catch-all participant. Others noted include the customer, domain SME, end users, and sponsor. Those are listed in there. But whenever it says any stakeholder, in the BABOK, it literally means any stakeholder with relevant knowledge or experience, regardless of their title or their role. If they have knowledge, bring them in. Which of the following is not a key element to consider when conducting elicitation activities? So we're in the conduct elicitation task. And 3 of these are key elements to consider. 1 of them is not. Select the elicitation technique to use. Determine what forms of output the activity will generate. Understand how the output integrates into what is already known. Consider how the information will be used. Let's start at the top. Is this one of the elements to consider?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How
I
about
think
this one?
input as well. Yeah. Techniques, inputs, elements. So I would think the first one would be the technique. Oh, it's not a key element. Okay, sorry. One moment.
So, should we have already considered which elicitation technique to use before we get to conduct elicitation? Isn't that included in the elicitation activity plan, which is an output of prepare for elicitation?
Yep.
Okay, let's go to this one. Determine what forms of output the activity will generate. So, as I'm getting information from people, sometimes they give me a list, sometimes they give me a process, sometimes they give me other documents. And so I have to, on the fly, figure out all this information you're giving me, how can I best put it into a document or a way so that I can understand it and ask them, do I have the information correct? So that's what they're talking about, determining what forms of output the activity will generate. Understanding how the output integrates into what is already known. So I got this list from John, and now Bill is telling me that he has more of that same list. So they go together. Or I got this list from John, and Bill is telling me, oh no, we need to check some things on John's list because Bill's list doesn't agree. So I have to make a table so we can do a comparison. And then consider best how the information will be used. Is this going to be part of this project, or is this something that we just document for future understanding? Let's test A. So these are stated elements within the task conduct elicitation, and this one is not. We've already done this before we get to conduct elicitation. Any questions on that one?
No.
All right. You have been asked to confirm your results after the requirements workshop. Why is that important? To confirm your results? To ensure the requirements have already been specified and modeled? To ensure the work breakdown structure is created in time for risk identification and assessment? To ensure the project manager understands the requirements for project planning? To ensure the requirements are accurate and consistent with other information? Is there one that we can eliminate, guys?
B for Bahamas. Eliminate.
Why are we eliminating that one?
It just doesn't make sense to me to, during the elicitation phase, to be preoccupied with risk identification and assessment.
Okay. What do we think is the correct answer?
D for Denmark.
Do I have consensus?
Yeah, D works for me as well.
Okay. This is the stated purpose for confirming elicitation results. One reason I didn't like B very much is this may be true, but this doesn't answer the question, right? What we have to do is answer this question. Why is that important? Why is it important to confirm your results? This is the best answer. Which of the following statements best describes a confirm elicitation results task? So we have confirm elicitation results task. We want the purpose of it. To confirm elicitation results against other elicitation results to ensure consistency. I'm sorry, to compare them to ensure consistency. To document stated information along with stakeholder concerns. To check the information gathered during an elicitation session for accuracy, consistency with other information, or to ask stakeholders involved in the elicitation session to review the documented information for accuracy. Can we eliminate one?
I think B, stakeholder concerns is not going to get addressed with the elicitation process alone. Sorry for the background at my end. I will be on mute here. My apologies.
I can't hear your background noise, so it's automatically being eliminated. So what do we think the correct answer is?
D for Canada.
Amal, what do you think of that one?
I'm not sure which of the following statement best describe the confirmed elicitation real task.
So we want the purpose of this task.
How it is different than the previous question?
The previous question was different.
I agree with Jose. I think it should be C. Just going
Okay.
with the definition of confirm elicitation results.
Let's test it. This is the description of confirm elicitation results from the BABOK. It includes going back to the source of the information to review and ensure accuracy and comparing results against other elicitation results to ensure consistency. My favorite memory of doing this is someone said, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this, and they just were giving me this verbal vomit of this is what we do. And I was trying to write down this list, and I looked at it and went, this should be a process model. So I'd go back to my desk and I'd put it in a swim lane diagram where I could see where the handoffs were and who did what and what the time limits were, making it very, very clear, and then taking that back to them and walking through it with them to be sure I hadn't gotten anything in the wrong order, there wasn't something else to be added, just clarifying that I did document what they were giving me in a way that they understand it and that we can convey it to the rest of the team. Interviews and interface analysis are techniques used during which task. So we want to know the name of the task that uses interviews and interface analysis. Is that task confirm elicitation, conduct elicitation, prepare for elicitation, or prepare documentation? Which one can we eliminate, guys?
Prepare for elicitation. And prepare
Okay.
documentation. It's not a
And documentation. I think documentation doesn't sit in well with interviews.
Okay, so there's not a task called prepare documentation, is there? Okay, so what do we think the correct answer is?
Conduct elicitation.
What is
Interviews.
interface analysis here, Thea? I mean, interviews make sense. I don't know what interface analysis is. I want to go back and check that.
Okay, interface analysis. Let's say you're looking at making changes to an existing system. And let's say the system is Blue Cross Blue Shield, an insurance company, takes in funds and we want to send them to the bank. So that sending to the bank is an API, and that's an interface between us and the bank. So the analysis is what format do we send it? How frequently do we send it? Are there checks to be sure that it's sent correctly? Do we have reports on it? All of those things are going to be an analysis of the interface. That's what interface analysis is. Anytime there's a connection between one system and another that they connect, it doesn't even have to be outside the organization. It can be these two systems, customer service and billing. We get information from billing to be able to tell the customer, oh, yes, we received your payment. There's an interface analysis. There's an interface there. And we have to do an analysis of it to be able to say we understand what this is before we make any changes. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thanks, Pia. Okay.
You're welcome. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. In order to conduct a elicitation, what guidelines and tools will you need? So here's our task. We know we're in guidelines and tools. I'm going to walk through them directly instead of reading them all to you. Three of them have business analysis approach and one of them doesn't. Do we need business analysis approach?
Yes, I think it's required.
Okay, so I'm going to eliminate that one. The two of them have existing business analysis information. Do we need that?
Yes, I reckon it's required. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to eliminate this one that doesn't have it. They both have a stakeholder engagement approach. This one has supporting materials and this one has the elicitation activity plan. Which one of them do we need?
I'm going with supporting materials.
Okay. Jose, what do you think?
Conduct elicitation. Stakeholder engagement approach and supporting materials. Business approach using business information on elicitation activity.
Haven't come across this elicitation activity plan, I think. Have I?
Yeah, I would go for D for Denmark because of the elicitation activity plan.
Okay, let's
Oh,
test it. So elicitation activity plan is an input versus a guideline or tool. So yeah, you do need the elicitation activity plan, but it was asking for a guideline or tool. Jenna, you were correct.
yeah.
This is the correct list that you need for as a guideline and tool for the conduct elicitation task. You see where you got tripped up?
Yeah. Guidelines and tools.
There's a so the difference on the CBAP exam actually is it's going to say what do you need before you can start. That means inputs. What will you use is going to be your guidelines and tools, and maybe it might also talk about elements there, but you need to understand the different buckets of things that you need for each task so that you can answer the questions on the test. Okay. Which of the following tasks provides stakeholders with the information they need at the time they need it? Is it the communicate business analysis information, confirm elicitation results, manage stakeholder collaboration, or conduct elicitation? Which of the following tasks, so it's a task, which one of these is not a task?
Conduct elicitation is. Manage stakeholder collaboration is. Confirm elicitation results.
I may be wrong. I think all these are tasks.
All of
So
them
which
are
one
tasks.
provides stakeholders the information they need at the time that they need it?
Confirm elicitation results. Or communicate business. No, no, I think A or B.
Okay, you've got to vote for A and B. What do you think, Jose?
A or B, I'm more towards B.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're
B
going to
most.
be providing stakeholders with information.
Providing with information they need. Provide information they need.
Yeah,
Okay,
B.
provide information, communicate.
That's communicate.
Oh, okay.
Communicate business analysis information provide stakeholders with the information they need at the time that they need it. The information is presented in a useful form using the right terminology and the right concepts. Good job. Last one. Which of the following statements is not true regarding collaboration? So 3 are true. What is not true about the term and the concept of collaboration? Collaboration involves communication on an as-needed basis. Collaboration encourages the free flow of information and ideas. Collaboration promotes a shared effort to resolve problems. Collaboration involves regular, frequent, and bidirectional communication. Let's start at the top. Is this true or not true?
Not true.
Okay. Is this true or not true?
It's true.
Okay. How about this one?
Shared effort, true. Yeah.
Also regular, frequent.
And this
Yeah,
one, is
that's
this one
also
true?
true. Yep. I think it's not true. As needed
Okay.
basis. Yeah.
So do we agree that these are all true and this one is not true?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Test it. This is not a stated descriptor of the collaboration element. Okay. You guys got 88. You found a few things that you can improve on, but you're doing really well. I'd like to move on to chapter 5 next week.
All right.
Okay. Why don't we do chapters 3, 4, and 5 next week? That way you get a little bit of 3 and 4 also, and you don't lose anything. And, look back at 3, revisit a 4, and a few questions in chapter 5. Does
Okay.
that work?
Okay. Yeah. Review of
Okay.
the 3 and 4 as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 3, 4, and 5 next week. I do encourage you to read chapter 5. Chapter 5 is very similar to chapter 4. Let's look at it real quick. Chapter 5 again has 5 tasks in it. This is how we take care of our requirements. We are going to trace requirements, which is a very critical concept for you to understand. I'll bring a picture for you next week for that. Maintaining requirements brings in the idea of reusing requirements. It's a big deal in the BABOK to reuse requirements. They have specific criteria to be reusable. You need to understand that. Prioritizing requirements is always this requirement is more or less important than this other requirement, and how do we keep track of where those things are? Where do we identify the prioritized requirements? Assessing requirements changes is someone comes up and they say, I haven't been in any of your meetings, but I want you to change this one requirement to this other thing. What do we go back to? It's always going to be governance. Governance, remember at the very beginning, told us who has the right to make decisions based upon changing the requirements and what to do if needs a tiebreaker. And then approving requirements, we have our list of requirements, maybe a partial list, and we need to have somebody specific that says, I understand these requirements and I can approve them. So these are the 5 new tasks that we're talking about. Yes, Jose?
No.
Okay. Okay, so y'all have realized by now that we're doing our planning and our elicitation, and then while we're doing our elicitation, we're doing these things too, right? We're doing at the same time. We're eliciting while we're managing our requirements. Many of our chapters are going to be like that. We're just layering on. Here's another thing you're going to be doing at the same time. That's one reason I wanted you to learn them chapter by chapter so you understand what we're doing. The nice thing about this particular chapter is trace requirements ends up, the output is requirements trace and designs traced. And it's like that throughout almost the entire thing. Also, the inputs into these, all of these are exactly the same input. This one is only difference because you have the proposed changes in here. That the assess requirements changes, you have the changes. And then this one is the one that's a little bit different. So this makes it a little bit easier. In this chapter also, we're going to be talking about requirements and designs more openly. So requirements are what you start with your need, those turn into requirements, and then the design is what you're actually, that describes your solution. So you're going to be looking at this from looking at from the requirements to the designs, and then looking back and forth, especially in traceability, the way they relate to each other. These relationships are going to they just gets a little bit more complicated as you're adding more things. For instance, you need to understand these different types of relationships between requirements. You're also going to need to understand the different basis for prioritization, this list, and your impact analysis for each of your changes. You've got this list. Each one of these words or phrases has specific meaning that you need to be able to explain. So it's kind of a lot to add, but I know that you're ready for it. Any questions? Okay, guys, we'll see you here next week. Thank you for being on time. It makes it a lot easier to get all the questions in and all of the conversation done. I will see you next week. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Tia.
Can I-
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you. Have a great time.